Thank you, Mr. Payne, for agreeing to talk to us today about growing up in Athens and about yourself. When and where were you born?
I was born in Athens, right in Athens, to Henry and Rosa Payne.
Okay.
In 1925.
Right. Tell me something about them, about your parents.
My father's people were in the real estate and undertaking business. As a matter of fact, my grandfather was in partnership with old man Mac, and that's how you got Mac and Payne. Well, the Payne part is my grandfather's.
Okay.
And if sometimes you're downtown and you're coming down Washington Street, there's a small building that was wedged in between the Good Samaritan building and the Morton Theater. There's a Payne up on there, and that's where the funeral home was.
Okay. What can you tell me about the Good Samaritan building? What was that?
That was insurance organization. Black folks then sometimes organized in order to provide protection for themselves, death, burial, and so forth. And this was one of those organizations, Good Samaritan.
And it was next door to the Morton, and Mac and Payne was between?
Yeah, look, Mac and Payne was a tiny building wedged in between the Good Samaritan building, which is now toned down. But that was a huge building. It was, I think, 2 stories anyway.
Anything else you can tell me about your parents, your daddy and your mom?
My mother was an only child, and that was 7 children in the family, 5 boys and 2 girls. And I'm the 6th one.
Number 6.
And then I have a younger sister, but all the siblings are deceased now except my sister.
And what about, where were they from?
As far as I know, they were all from Athens, right, in this community. And I think perhaps one of my older ancestors from the Payne side might have come from Texas or Florida, somewhere down in there. But as far as I know, they were all from around Athens, Clark County.
What about your grandparents? You know anything about them? Did you have any?
No, no, except for what I'm told, and that's very little. My mother never did do a lot of talking about family, being an only child. However, her mother did raise a cousin of hers who went to Ohio and married a Payne too. But I don't know anything about him.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about the early years of growing up in your home. What was it like as a child growing up?
Well, in that period of time, life was pretty difficult for everybody. I didn't know it was difficult. I'm sure it was difficult for my parents. They did their own vegetables and they raised animals. We had a cow. We had milk and butter, and most of all the needs that, as far as food is concerned, we pretty much provided it for ourselves.
Where was your home located when you had cows?
I was right here. I was born next door. No, my father and mother lived next door, and most of my siblings were born next door. I just tore their house down and cleaned that lot off over there. But that's where most of them were born. A brother that was immediately older than myself, and my sister and I were born right up on Broad Street up here, right across from the funeral home.
Okay.
But for the most part, my whole life has been spent between Billop Street, Rock Spring, Reese, and Broad Street. Mm-hmm. That square is where.
Since you had a cow and hogs and pig, can you kind of describe what the family plot looked like?
Okay. It was a very small plot, but the way we took care of the cow, we didn't have one cow at a time. I had a halter on it, and we carried it around. It didn't have as many houses and things around in there. There were a lot of vacant lots.
Okay.
Well, this cow was carried by chain from one lot to the other to graze during the day. Watered in the stream they called Lunston Branch down there. The Lunston's right in the flat down there.
Uh-huh.
There's a creek that crosses there, comes across Clark Central football field.
Okay.
Down and cross Rock Spring Street and all the way down to Pear Street and empties into Brooklyn.
So it empties into the Brooklyn Creek.
Creek.
Okay.
Right. So we watered the animals in that, watered the cow down there.
Mm-hmm.
Then we brought the cow home and milked and put her in the lot.
Mm-hmm.
Did the same thing every day. Then, of course, we gave them so-called food. Sweet feed, I always say that.
Okay. So can you describe the neighborhood? You said that there were fewer houses, of course. So.
Yeah. Where these projects are now, there were homes there. Straight across the street there was what they call a sanctified alley.
Sanctified alley.
Sanctified alley. That church down on the corner was down in there. There were two other houses before you got to the church, and it was an alley that went down through there to Minor Street and out. And because the church was down in there, they called it, that's a holiness church.
Mm-hmm.
And we always referred to holiness church as sanctified.
Okay.
And it was,
so that church been around quite a while.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We called it Sanctified Alley. When the housing authority bought up this property across here, the church was moved from down there down to that corner down there. And all the other houses and things were demolished and cleared out so the housing project could be built in there.
Okay. Who were some of your neighbors?
There were Cleve Stevens. I should have written all this down because Will Hudson was next door over there. Didn't have any children, but did adopt a young lady.
Okay.
And she was raised over there. Across the street.
Do you know what kind of work your neighbors did?
Will Hudson worked for Michael's Brothers. Michael's Brothers was a haberdashery store downtown. And what's in that building now? And, on the corner of pretty close to Thomas Street. I'm trying to think now. It's a restaurant downstairs.
I think was before they moved to the mall with Davison and Davison and Macy's in that building.
It was first Michael Brothers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I know the building that you're talking about, I think.
Yeah, and then the Michael Brothers sold it to Davison, I believe it was.
Okay. So that's where one of your neighbors were.
Yeah. He worked on in Julius, Maryland, actually was one of the people that helped raise me. Took a community to raise a child.
Okay, tell me about that.
I'm one of the community children.
Okay.
Julius, Maryland stayed here, and that's how we got the cows and things. He came here from Augusta, Georgia.
What's that last name again?
Maryland.
Maryland.
Yeah. Okay. He came here from
Augusta.
Augusta, Georgia, and he was one of the kind of people that he was very resourceful and creative person, and he actually fed the whole community at one time during the Depression.
He did?
Yeah. He didn't have anything. He worked at the theater at the Strand Theater downtown, but he raised the vegetables, had a cow, raised pigs, we killed hogs and that kind of thing.
So he just shared.
At every meal, there was somebody would come to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always 10 or 12 people to be fed on what he produced. Most of the stuff he raised himself.
That's interesting. Okay. Do you know about how food was preserved back then?
Yeah, when we killed hogs, or any kind of meat, it was dried out, salted, so the water would be drawn out of it. And
When
then
you say dried out, it's tell me.
salt would draw the moisture
So
out
you put
of
the
meat.
salt on it.
Sprinkle it with salt, lay it out, and then the water would come out. Then you dry the water off the meat, and then you bury it in salt. It's wonder we are dead from eating so much salt, but we boiled the salt out of it. But the meat was preserved by burying it in salt.
Okay.
And that's the way we did ours. Now some other folks had smoke houses.
What do you know about smoke houses?
I'm not
They look.
tell you that's
Okay.
I don't know a thing about it. The only way I know about curing meat was to bury it in that salt.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. And what about canning?
Yeah. All right. We, as children, we would go back all over in there where Clark Middle School, all back over in there with nothing but fields. It was pretty much vacant. But there were plum vines and blackberry vines and wild berries. We would go pick those when they were in season, bring them home, and the parents would preserve them. And that's how we got our jams and jellies. However, we did have fruit trees, especially peaches, and that would be gathered in Kenya. And so we had some fruits and some vegetables too. We didn't can too many vegetables.
So there was plenty of open fields nearby.
Oh yeah, all across that before the project came. We carried our cow around from different places wherever there was grass, and the cow would forage, graze around, and then we'd bring her in the evening and milk her, put her up for the night, and next morning milk her again and take her back out.
Okay.
And that's the way we had our milk and butter. Now we did share. He was a very resourceful person. He could raise a cow. Cows would give 6 and 8 gallons of milk a day, and that milk would be sometimes given to. Well, he didn't give the sweet milk away because that's where we got your butter from. You let your sweet milk sour, and then you churn it, and you get butter, and you get buttermilk. Now the buttermilk was. Sometimes we sell it to folks around in the neighborhood. Sometimes we give it away. And sometimes we feed it. We have so much of it, fed it to the chicken. Now, you want some good chicken to eat. Eat some buttermilk fed chicken.
Really?
That's the best meat you ever eat in your life.
Okay.
Now, I have another. Like I said, I was raised in the community. Folks would all pitch in. If you did anything, you're going to get a spanking on the spot, and then the message is going home. You're going to get another. Now, I don't know whether you've ever heard of Ed Bazel.
I have.
Okay. Ed Bazel was one of my fathers. I stayed with him. He raised me too.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Where did he live at that time? Because I know later he actually lived on Rock Spring Street here.
Yeah, right across the street.
Right, yes.
Okay. The Brooklyn Church.
Okay.
The house across on that corner, diagonal across to that. That's where we used to, he and I used to stay out there.
Okay.
After he and his wife separated, he sort of moved around a little bit, but most of the time that was his property out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And as a child, what did you do for fun and games? What kind?
Mostly we took a broomstick, a ball, and a tennis ball, and we played in the street. And boy, I could whack a ball. Pitched horseshoes, played marbles, and I was pretty good at that too.
Okay.
Most of those kinds of sports. I never could play football. I'd always make the team for basketball. I'd go out, make the team for basketball. I wouldn't play. because I had skinny legs. I never sense enough to know skinny leg folk were the fastest. Folk with big legs.
So you didn't want them to see your legs.
They
That's why you
teased me.
looked-
They would always tease me about my poor legs. Look at that leg. Look at them skinny legs. But I was
Yeah.
lightning fast
Okay.
and pretty good with basketball, and I made the team every year, but I wouldn't play.
Wow. Okay. And tell me about your early school years when you started to school. Where was that?
At West Broad Elementary School, there's an old picture somewhere circulating of a two-story building.
Mm-hmm. I got
it
a copy of that picture.
on the corner of Minor and Broad Street.
Mm-hmm.
My parents told me, I don't know how truthful it was, that before it was turned into elementary school for black children, it was a tuberculosis hospital.
Okay.
I don't know how truthful it
It's
is.
something worth looking into.
All right. Now, that building, when it was torn down, I mean, there's a funny story about that. All of my friends.
Oh, okay. We need to wait. All right.